the security guys are kind of playing with me, but there's a bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers in the front row.
Welcome to what is sure to be a thrilling edition of Tales from the Attitude Era. As always, I'm Rob Pasbani, joined with my co-host, former head writer of WWE in 1999, Tommy Blacha, and we have a very, very special guest today. He stumbled onto the scene like a phoenix rising from the ashes for only a few episodes of WWE programming. Dave Koechner, comedian Dave Koechner, is here with us. Thank you, Dave, for taking some time out of your schedule to hang out with us on Tales from the Attitude Era.
First of all, comedian and actor, and if he was a phoenix rising, that would mean that he had burned before that. So, but whatever, it's wrestling. We can just move on, and like it's fine, it's fine. But
people
how
get
are you,
mad
Dave?
if their Greek characters aren't used the correct metaphorical way.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
a Sisyphus being punished once again, drawn to the ring.
Yep. What did they say? The Greeks had there's like 20 plots, and the Greeks had them all.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought there were only 9.
Oh, 9, whatever. You're the
You're
actor.
the head writer for WWF, so I'm not going to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I tried to pitch a bit on Conan once about like the plots the Greeks didn't have, and it was like a Greek play, but then it was like, you must sleep in your uncle's house to get the inheritance, but it's haunted, and just like stupid sitcom shit, and it didn't go over. It was
Come on.
I know it's too long. But anyways, that's when I split and went to wrestling. So let me set you up, if I may. So I've known Dane forever from Chicago. Lots of buffoonery, drunken madness.
Probably 87 or 89.
Yep. So yeah, not 88. 87 or 89. 88 was a blur for all of us. Anyways, so when I'm working for wrestling, there's a man named L. Brent Bozell. What was happening is wrestling was blowing up. WWF, huge ratings. And there was this thing called the Parent Television Council, this right-wing Christian organization that attacked wrestling and actually sued wrestling, or actually lost a lawsuit. But basically they were going, we're going to clean up TV, right? So the ratings were through the roof, and Vince was mad because this organization got all these advertisers to pull from wrestling, even though it was like huge. And he's like, damn it, this L. Brent Bozell asshole. I want you to somehow find someone. We're going to make L. Brent Bozo. We're going to make a character on wrestling, and he's going to come out against wrestling, but we're going to hook him up with drugs and hookers and throw him through tables and do all this. And then he's like, you get someone. And I'm like, Dave Koechner. I just thought, I was like, who can come out, sell it, and then, so got it. And I remember somehow we just got in. I think I called you and like, hey, you want to come out and doing these bits on wrestling? It's in different cities. I don't know how long it might be. It might be forever. Who knows? And then you flew out. I remember meeting Vince, and then you did the good thing in the meeting. You said like, oh yeah, I can come out and like wave the finger. Like, no, that's bad. And he's like, yeah, the finger wave. And I said like, yeah. And weeks later, someone can grab his finger and break it, and he can and then we're like. I was like, oh, thank God, we're off to the races. So what is your recollection?
Yeah. What do you remember about it?
It was, I had one son. He was not quite a year because it's 99. And I think the thing you'd mentioned, Tommy, it might go 6 months, which means I'd be in and out of town for 6 months.
Right.
So, of course, I'm an actor. I'm thinking, that's awesome. Plus, you and I would get to work together. So flew out, and like that, you remember more about that meeting than I do. I just remember, I'd never worked in wrestling. It's going to be so much fun, Plus, it's live theater too.
Absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Was Cincinnati or Pittsburgh the first city?
I think it was Pittsburgh.
And that's where we flew to first?
Yeah.
Yeah. Flew to Pittsburgh. I just remember it was, not your top line theater, right? Your arena is an older one.
Yeah.
I remember I once went outside the stadium and in the afternoon, and then I couldn't get back in because now I'm lost. I remember the vastness of it. The thing I remember most was the power and the energy of the thing, right? I know my job, which is pretty simple. I have my banner, WWF, Worldwide Filth.
Yep.
And so I would walk around the audience. There's, all the seating is well planned out. So there's a great path for me, not right around the stage, but behind the first set of chairs around the stage.
Right.
And I'm holding up my sign, and people are whipping pennies and ice and nickels. I was like, wow, this is intense. Now, there is security shadowing me about, I guess, 20 feet before and 20 feet after. So it doesn't look like they're with me.
Right.
Right. So I do the thing. It's intense. I go up, of course, as instructed to the ring, which is impossible. Nobody could get close to the ring, but I get right up there. I bang my sign against the ropes, and it's is it the Godfather? No,
Godfather, yes.
It was
Godfather.
the Godfather, yeah. The pimp wrestler.
Did he have pimps or hoes?
He had hose. He was the
He's
pimp.
the pimp.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he would take my sign and rip it up, and then I would be dragged away. And yes. Now, that was Cincinnati.
Right.
And everything went well.
Yes.
Then we get on Vince's plane, and I get to fly with you guys in his private jet to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. I remember. How fun.
And then you have, can I say confabe or no?
Kayfabe? Yeah.
Kayfabe.
Yeah. It's all over now.
Okay. So
we're breaking the barriers here.
I think you mentioned you're going to have a kayfabe on the plane, and I'm to be quiet, which is difficult for me anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But, I mean, you were always fucking around, but the way you said it to me was, I'm not doing a bit right now. So why don't you go to that end of the plane? We're going to have a kayfabe and blah, blah. So that was that. I remember there was business being conducted. I'm on Vince McMahon's private jet.
Right.
I can't believe it. But my buddy Tommy's there, so I'm like, this is fine. We get to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Was it the next night?
Yeah. It would
the
be
next night. There's not a day between.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember if The Rock was in, would he have been in both?
He would have been in both, yeah.
Okay.
Everyone would have been in both.
I remember how quiet the locker room was. It's not a hype place. Everyone's chilling. Right. And The Rock is talking to someone, and it may have been Cena. I'm not sure from the era.
It wouldn't have been Cena. He wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Who knows? It could have been Austin. Could have been Road Dogg. I don't know who could have been. Could have been anyone.
I remember it was quiet talk, so they probably were going over their show.
Yeah.
Right.
All
I knew is I was able to tamp down my worst impulses, which would have been to go up to everybody and go, "Hi guys,
yeah,
we're doing a show together. I'm Dave."
Yeah. Well, actually, there is an old school tradition that you go in and you actually shake hands with everyone and introduce yourself, but that's it. No extra small talk, but
Yeah, that wouldn't have happened with me. I remember that, keep my place. So now we're in Pittsburgh. What's the name of that show? That's
that would have been SmackDown.
SmackDown.
Yeah. So, right.
Monday Night Raw. SmackDown.
Monday Night Raw is live. SmackDown was live to tape.
Okay. And I'm in my Bozo costume. They bring me my sign. They bring me out. I think you'd walk me through it.
Right.
Marginally, thoroughly. Which is like, you just go around, then you go up there, and they charge your sign, and then you go away. Like any day. So I remember when I go out, it's more intense than it was in Cincinnati. You can feel the intensity. So I'm walking around. People are whipping pennies and ice. And I think maybe this time nickels. Money be damned. And I remember some kid, 15 years old, comes up and starts grabbing the sign from me. And my instinct was immediately, "Don't fight back." I just whispered to him, "I'm part of the show." And he immediately went, "Oh." Yeah, he didn't go, "Fuck," So then that happened. So then I get, however, impossibly through the ring around, did you describe to the people, like the padded ring before the moat, let's say, between
right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a padded wall, which used to be just a barrier back in the day, but then like this area was like padded, so you get over that, and there's padding around the ring, and then there's the ring.
Right. Because in reality, there's no way I would have gotten that close to stage.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
So there's Pimp Daddy. Right? Am I saying it's Pimp Daddy, right?
Yeah, Pimp Daddy, Godfather.
Yeah.
It's all
I
fine.
get through, and I'm supposed to wait till he gets the hose there, and I bang the sign against the ropes. It gets torn out, and then the security guys are kind of playing with me, but there's a bunch of Pittsburgh Steelers in the front row, and they don't know this is a bit.
Yeah.
Now they've got a hold of me, right? And they're gonna do some business, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" They don't know this is part of the show.
Yeah.
And so the security guys ended up pulling me away from these Pittsburgh Steelers, and then shuttling me off to safety. But I felt that went very well.
Yeah, that was that was the exciting stuff about wrestling then, which is a little gone now. Which if someone would have said, "Hey, should we maybe wisen up those Steelers about Dave going out there?" Vince probably would have been like, "Why?" Let's let things just play out, exactly. And it's like, So you got this all figured out. Yeah, it'll happen, Yeah. And that was wrestling. There was so much just fly by the seat of your pants. That'll work out. What's the worst could happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
especially that. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't give it a second thought because, I have an improv background. So I thought, okay, we'll just see what plays out. And there's a loose story structure. It'll be fine. The last thing on my mind was that perhaps some Pittsburgh Steeler linemen would be grabbing me. And they're the ones I'm being saved from. Yeah. That was funny.
Oh, especially that business. You go backstage with like a, broken nose and a, black eye, the response would be like, "Oh, they got you." There's no like, "Oh my goodness, what happened?"
Oh yeah. It was, it wasn't going to be.
Did we get it on camera? Yeah. Oh, what a blast! Well, I always remember just like you were the perfect guy for like who can just sell this, because that was all about. Wrestling is the facial is a thing, the term in wrestling where, you get your camera and you're like, you got to be stunned. You got to sell it fast. But I was like, you just popped into my head. And I always remember that meeting because you need a visual, and then here's where Vince is discerning like, okay, who, this is on you. Who is this guy? And then you just like came right about, oh, I get it. And I could go out there and like wave that finger. And that I remember going like, yeah, we could have the finger. The finger's the thing. Like, yeah, the finger's the thing. The wave of the finger. And then like, yeah, later he can get it broken. And like, then you just laid out two things. I'm on board. And everyone's like, he loves it. Okay, cool. That's.
Well, the year before I'd been on Saturday Night Live. So it wasn't like I was nobody.
Yeah. And you were too good for Saturday Night Live. Your tenure there was, believe it or not, for a lot of people being in that building was a little bit heroic for whatever it's worth in the terms of like, hey, I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? I don't want to like speak ill of the place, but there's a lot of people that kind of went over there and were like, I'm lost because it's not a nurturing place, so to speak. And I know from behind the scenes, everyone said like your attitude, and correct me if I'm wrong, was like, well, I'm not going to fuck around this if I'm not like, fit in.
It's a 6-year contract. And before I signed on.
Jesus, that's like the Army. It's a 6 year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I had already decided I'm leaving in 3 years in my head.
Right.
In my head, I'm like, I'm not staying here 6 years. Why would you?
Yeah.
Not understanding as the universe works, all it heard was, you're leaving. The other thing was, you come from an improv and sketch background. It's all ensemble, right?
Right.
And I thought we're all going to be working together and helping and supporting each other. Like, oh, that doesn't exist. Huh, okay. Then you think someone surely must kind of be in charge of, helping you navigate the way you go through it. Because I do remember after the wrestling thing, I learned a lesson. In wrestling, their job is to help you get over.
Right. Yeah.
It's no one's job at SNL.
You're absolutely right. In fact, I would go on and write on a couple sitcoms, and people would kind of like, at the time, wrestling's all different now. It's like porn. It's all mainstream. Who gives a shit? But but back then I'd be in a writer's room for a sitcom, and then, it'd be like, oh, you work for wrestling. And I'd be like, I yearn for the professional integrity and honesty of that industry over this one. I'm fucking just say it straight up. And that industry's cutthroat and all kinds of shit happen. But it's right. You sell for each other. You get yourself over, you work together. It is much more of an ensemble, and even down to people's health and what have you. And, everyone hears all the stories of, this cutthroat, that, but for the most part, it's an incredible teamwork, that, like I said, that you didn't find at Saturday Night Live. No. Well, I'm here.
Yeah.
Where did everyone, I just see the backs of everyone's heads.
I remember one of Lorne's early notes when we're doing a run through. Remember, Dave, if you can't see the camera can't see you. What? I'd never been on TV. They give you nothing. There you go.
Yeah.
And then I remember, alliances kind of forming, and oh shit, you got a kind of buddy of the writer, or what the heck, and your ideas aren't fully fleshed out, and you're not guaranteed that any writer is going to be interested in you or your idea.
Right.
So then, you hope that someone takes a shine to you, or you just get put in a sketch. But overall, I had actually a great season. As far as first seasons go, mine was probably comparable with some of the best, right?
Yeah.
I had recurring characters. I know we had the first characters on TV Guide that year. If you remember how big TV Guide was.
Ooh. Yeah.
I don't know if the young man next to you.
I'm very familiar.
Was it TV Guide?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that SNL was like wrestling, because I always thought that SNL was like the WWE of the comedy world. Like it's the same thing. You have to get over, like you were saying. You have to, you work up the ranks. You get rub from the bigger comedian, like the more featured comedians, and then people recognize you and want to root for you when you're on another sketch. But it's interesting that you say that there was no nurturing there, that it was just a Shark Tank, and that WWE was far more nurturing, which you don't usually hear that. But that kind of just shows how cutthroat, and especially I feel like in '95 at SNL, it was kind of a transition year too, because they were just losing all the big stars.
Yeah. The 94-95 season, New York Magazine titled it Saturday Night Dead. And
right.
Big news. And, a lot of the guys had been there a while, and they were pretty lazy. And of course, Lorne's not really guiding anything,
Yeah.
There's no like, this year we're going to try to do this, Nope.
So he's like Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. It's going down. Oh, everyone's still talking about it, even the failures or whatever. It's like it's a fucking 50-year institution, dear Lord.
With 13 cast members, and more than half of us were new, having never done it before. I'm Adam McKay, who wrote both Anchormans and obviously tons of stuff by then. And Tom Giannis came out. He was a writer. So in my mind, because we're all from Chicago, they're going to write for me.
Yeah.
They don't work for you, Dave.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing.
Click.
They've got to get over.
Yeah.
And so it's just, you cast whoever you think will probably do your sketch good.
Yeah, when it was funny, I worked there as a guest writer a couple times. There's all these like terrible idiosyncrasies, but I worked there as The Rock's guest writer when he was the big deal in I guess that was 99. But the things you learn like, so you have like on a Wednesday, you know, and it's funny, it's similar to wrestling in the same, like, here's the show, and there's nothing like a live show. Then when it's over, it's like no editing, whatever. It's done. It's aired. It's over. It's kind of spectacular. There's not many, it's so exciting. But when, you know, you're pitching the sketches, I guess on a Wednesday, there's this weird meeting. And so I'm with The Rock, and Rock's going like, oh, I like, what's her name? The character used to smell her armpits, the Catholic girl.
Yes.
Mary Catherine
Gallagher.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'd like to do something with her. And then, okay, so we're like doing these pitches. But meanwhile, people are going like, well, someone kind of wised me up to the side, like, we're not doing her anymore. Oh, okay. Oh. And then all the pitches are like fake, because they said like, well, Wednesday we roll out the fake pitches, because if you get over on your pitch on Wednesday, it gets stale. So it's all kind of like a fake meeting. And then they've got that person there with the piano kind of scoring the meeting. And I'm like this is fucking bullshit.
The fake meeting is on Monday in Lorne's office, and everyone's in there.
Right.
And they do pitch bullshit. They'll pitch, I think they'll pick a straw man pitch, which this isn't my good one, but then they'll pitch a better one, so it automatically seems better than the first thing, and then you think, oh, they must have something.
Right. And also like wrestling, when the clock's running out, like, fuck, this isn't good enough. Oh shit, it's tomorrow. I love it. There's that fucking attitude.
Wednesday's the table read, so you've got Monday and all night Tuesday, all night. Right.
And it is all night.
Yeah. Then there's the table read on Wednesday with the cast and the producers and whatever. And based on their laughter, the sketch makes it or not. Not based on whether or not we all know the one that didn't get laughter, could have been better. But that's not even considered.
Yeah. Also didn't get laughter because you might have heard the joke already like 5 times, right? Like,
it's not too often, but sometimes a sketch would get resubmitted and it would die at the table, which is the dumbest thing ever, because you knew it was a good sketch, and we know why no one's laughing. It doesn't make it a bad sketch.
Oh, it's like that in the sitcom world. It's a cliche. We're like, funny joke, ha ha ha. Funny joke for 10 times, ha ha ha. Right. Everyone, network, ha ha ha. The joke's so good it can stand 17, 18 different readings. And then here comes the time where the show. Oh, everyone's paranoid. Hurry, quick, replace it with inferior joke in the 11th hour. Panic, and then like everyone watches it like that. What happened to that great joke? Nah, it was like, they just panicked, and then like you had to rush out something. Yeah, all the time.
The thing that surprised me was how they wouldn't take a sketch that they knew was going to be good and then save it and know that it's going to make it for some other show, rather than to make them redo it through the table read. Like, take the great sketches, rewrite them, and get them on TV like anybody would.
Yeah.
Make it better.
Well, and that's the thing. When something fails for 1 or 2 reasons, you're like, oh, we can fix those 1 or 2 reasons. No, it's produce. It's rotten. It's it's like it's always like that. That's what I would loved about wrestling. If you notice too, with like a lot of the boys, they'd have something, they just kind of run it through, especially when they wanted to get physical, and they just knew, because they're at that level, they're so experienced at doing stuff. So you'll see them going over their stuff, and they're kind of like, yeah, I'll come through, I'll hit you, and then you go around, you cause a little thing there, and we'll fucking do it. And then they don't want to like rehearse it too much. Some guys kind of wanted, other guys are like, fucking, which was the most amazing thing to me, like, call it in the ring. What do you mean? Like, that's something I didn't realize, how much a lot of the guys called it in the ring. Like, yeah, we don't got no plan, we got to finish, but we'll just like, we're whispering in each other's ears. And they're just the best example to describe it is like, you could have 2 world-class tango people that know how to dance the tango, and they just meet, and they're going to go out on stage, but they're like, we're experienced enough, we'll fucking bring the house down. And like, you never met? And I've seen guys that, one guy speaks Japanese, one guy speaks fucking Spanish. They don't even, the only English they know is like hip toss, and weird shit like that. And they'll fucking go out there, and you put them together and like fucking bring the house down. And I almost was like, that was the most impressive thing I saw. Like, talk about improv, like, holy fuck, look at what these fucking guys are fucking doing.
They're doing it with stuff that's potentially dangerous, life-ending, and like they're just calling the dance as they go.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. I think years later, I saw The Miz do an extra match later that wasn't going to be televised or something.
Yeah, dark match. We call that a dark match, Dave.
Okay, thank you. And I think The Miz was wrestling John Cena. And I remember him saying that John just called the whole thing.
Yeah.
He just called the whole thing. It was amazing. And I think, could it be possible that he allowed The Miz to win because it's a dark match?
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. That happens a lot. Yeah. That's what I miss. Yeah. Dark matches, a lot of stuff can happen, and house shows. A house show is something that's not televised, so it can. They're actually a lot more fun sometimes because they can spread out. Where TV was so crazy because it's like, okay, your match is 5 minutes. You're going over. All right, and then later, oh shit, that went wrong. Your match that's 5 minutes is now 3 minutes. Fuck. So okay, we'll call it out there. All right, I'm beating fucking Dave, but Dave's got to win. Referee, you got to go home now. Fuck. But I'm okay. Then nut job me. Oh, okay, boom. You got to fucking. So these guys are so paranoid because of the TV time. Whereas I remember watching a house show with Chris Jericho in L.A. where someone threw a toilet paper roll into the ring, and big streamer, and he stopped the match, which you could never do on TV. And he demands the microphone, and everyone else is wise enough to know what is he doing, and he just to the whole Staples Center crowd like, who threw this? Who threw this? No one's leaving until we find out who threw this. And then finally he fed his back. I saw it like to the guy who was smart enough to like, oh, he's feeding me his back. I'm going to drop kick him. And he fucking rolled out of the ring, threw the toilet paper roll. And people are, like, does that? And he was like, no, that was just on the fly. It's fucking so spectacular, awesome. Shit like that.
It really is. It's I guess you could, it's something akin to an improvised play in football.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. A broken play. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
so
what,
one thing I'm curious about before we get back to the wrestling. I just one little button on the SNL thing. Did you end up quitting? Like, how did you get out of the contract?
Like that, I'd had a good season, but there's a saying: the Irish don't suffer fools gladly. So there was two producers that I didn't know I had pissed off, not top line producers, minor league producers. One from NBC West, and then a writer. And so also, they'd come up to me several times and said, hey, why don't we take that Gerald character and make him on a talk show? Now, I'd had one really great sketch with Christopher Walken with this character named Gerald, who talks a little like this. He's kind of seems like a hillbilly, but he reads Noam Chomsky. And so I had a really good sketch. And so once they see it, a bauble that works, then they want to figure out what to do. And so they came to me 3 times and said, what about a Gerald talk show? And I was so foolish because I said this, because I came from, a sketch background. I said, that's the problem with the show. We need more sketches, not more talk shows. But looking back on it now, it would have been the perfect medium for Gerald, because he's the host. He can mess with the guest, deride him, and have his own fun. Because the thing about Gerald, he has to have a power in the situation where he can just do his own thing. Like he was the executioner, the ultimate power. But it would have been perfect, because then I realized Gerald would have said something like, if you had, any guest on, he'd say, we're going to redo that. We're going to reenact a movie from your film, one scene. Here's the wrinkle. I'm going to play your part, because I'm going to show you how you should have done it. And here we go. Oh, by the way, you're the ingenue in that. And then, he'd probably be making fun of the way the guy did it. It would have been a perfect setup. So that was a mistake.
It's so not. Is it too late to go hat in hand back to them? Hey, you know what?
Yeah, right. I did that. So
as the decades have gone by,
So I actually had a great season. To go back to I did these characters called the Fops with Mark McKinney, and they're the first characters to catch on. The first ones to catch on. We were on TV Guide within 4 weeks. Right.
Right.
Now the problem here is, nobody knew what to do with the Fops. Let's take, for instance, the cheerleaders did a cheer every week. That
Right.
thing was A, B, C. With the Fops, they just put them in everything. Like once we're in a cold opening for no reason. Why?
Yeah.
Next, they just write some other weird sketch for them for no rhyme or reason. Once they have their own antique store. And I realized later the thing that they should have figured out was, what do courtesans do? Curry favor, keep trying to go up the chain of command. So we started on the weekend update desk, which worked perfectly, right? Then we started doing sketches, which is rare to take a character from the update desk and
Right.
then put them in the sketches. So those are a little bit less successful. And then they kept them in the sketch world, didn't bring them back to the update world. And they, nobody knew the thing. I realized a year later, it should have been, we go to the late night desk only to meet a producer who puts us on this sketch and another sketch till we finally get to Lauren's office, right? Because he's the king there. And then eventually we want to replace Lauren and get to the head of NBC there. Then the next stop would have been, they were owned by GE at the time. So Jack Smith, I believe, is the CEO of GE.
Jack Wright? Is it Jack Smith or is it?
Is it Jack Wright? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. Hey, research.
Did you just yell for research?
Yeah,
Jack Welch?
Hold on, Jack Welch.
You're
yeah.
right.
One time I actually ran into Jack Welch up in the we were fucking around in the Conan offices, and I was pushing, I think, Frank Smiler, someone in a garbage can, like an out into the hallway, right into Jack Welch and a whole team of people from, and then it was like, holy shit. And then we realized, like, it fit. Being a writer is so special because it can fit into, like, what are these idiots doing? Are they accountants? They're fired. No, they're writers. They're supposed to let their mind wander, and that's the business model. They're making money. All right, push them around in the trash, Then when the P-test came out, NBC, like, writers no, they're supposed to be stoned. That's part of the business model. So
I think I may have run into him too, and it was just, simple pleasantries, but quickly. But yeah, that seemed like a good dude.
Yeah.
But the fun thing was that we were all there. So I know we probably talked about everybody that was at Conan at one point from Chicago.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
You've already talked about it on your show?
Yeah. Well, we had Andy on early show.
Okay.
So,
but that was just a remarkable thing. I had all these buddies in the same building.
Yeah.
And we're all there, but at the same time, all going, well, of course we're here.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
And then you get the glad hand, and then you get the fist afterwards. Gotcha.
Yes, you get your ticket punched, and then they take your ticket away. So I was told that the reason they let me go was Don Ohlmeyer didn't like the Fops because he thought they were gay. And remember, because we were the first ones out the gate with success on TV Guide, those characters were supposed to make it over, and they failed.
Well, you know what? This is, I take everything back to wrestling, and there's always time-honored phrases. And what they did with those is that's called hot-shotting in the business. That's when you got a vacuum, you don't have enough popular shit, something gets popular, you fucking beat it to death, and you fucking kill it. So that's called, like, so that would be a term like, well, don't, take it easy, dole it out. Like, even with your guy, with the finger wave, we're going to be like, well, dole it out. And then the announcers would kind of be like, yeah, who's this guy? Just like a little seed, and then more, and then more, and more. And that's what they did with it. Yeah, put them on a sketch, doing that. They hot-shotted it, and they killed your heat. That's,
okay. I'll talk about that first. Well, I killed my heat somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I'm not a devious guy. I'm just going to play along, root for everybody, and it's all going to work out. There was nothing in my, on my radar that would have suggested I'm not coming back.
Right.
Like during the season, there was no talk of like, hey, you need to step it up, character. Because I was on quite a bit.
Yeah. Wow. Well, from how it trickled down to us in the building was like, fucking Koechner's fired, whatever. And then it was like, yeah, I heard he fucking like wouldn't do some shit that, he wasn't going to take some shit. And it was like, yeah. So that was like, that's what we believe. That's what I still believe.
Right.
Damn it.
Yeah.
It's still real to me. Damn it. That's what happened.
And it hurts so bad. And here's the weird thing. So, McKay and Giannis took up for me, and I had a meeting with some gal who was the local NBC person. Okay, so here's how it worked back then. So it's 95, 96. It was the first time they had competition from a sketch show late night, Mad TV.
Right.
And also Howard Stern started a late night comedy sketch show.
Right.
So the first time they'd had head-to-head comedy competition. Plus, it's a pretty new cast. So ratings were down. So now NBC West Coast had some power that they normally don't have. So they told Lorne he had to make some changes. And it was me.
Don Ohlmeyer.
Don Ohlmeyer.
Yeah.
It was me and Nancy Carell. Her name was Nancy Walls back then. And
Yes.
Nancy's just a quiet, talent. It was she and I were let go. And Mark McKinney was going to be let go. It was either me or Mark McKinney, or Nancy was going to go. Now, Mark had worked with Lorne years earlier on Kids in the Hall, because Lorne produced Kids in the Hall. Plus, Mark had just had a baby. I'm assuming now that didn't figure in, because why would Lorne care about a person? But I found out because we were a bunch of Chicagoans were doing the Kennedy Center. Doing a 2 or 3 week run of the best of Second City. So we were riding high. Then it's printed in one of the crappy New York rags that I've been let go. Like, no one called me. It winds up, yeah. It said me, Nancy, and Mark McKinney would not be returning. And so you're just kind of confused. Like, what are you talking about? That's a gossip blurb?
Yeah.
So suddenly your world is over, but you still got to do your show, and then you head back to New York and go, what's going on? No, come on, But then you also hope, because your contract will be re-upped in August, and this is June, so I've got a little time. So I have a meeting with this gal from NBC who is new, and then I didn't know any of the other politics. Then I met with Steve Higgins, who's the head writer,
right,
hat in hand, going, I'll be a good soldier. Yeah. I'll play whatever they want me to play, blah, blah, blah. Still thinking it's going to be okay. And then it wasn't.
Wow.
But
well,
I did get an exit interview with Lorne, which apparently never happens, because Lorne actually wanted to keep me.
Yeah. Ohlmeyer. Well, for those that don't know, Don Ohlmeyer, OJ's good pal, had a lot of power there at NBC, and was a big, just like kind of a, bulldozer of a fucking personality. And how funny. It probably was a perfect storm. Someone's like, yeah, I don't know, those fops are gay. And that producer probably chimed in, yeah, and I heard he wouldn't do the thing too. Right. Like, let me, Conan O'Brien has a good Ohlmeyer story that I don't think he'll mind me telling, which is like, I was like, oh boy, Ohlmeyer, he holds the cards, and he's life or death. And he went out to eat with him. Maybe it was one of his first times or something. And Ohlmeyer ordered a burrito suiza, which is a burrito with melted cheese on it. And he's a big blustery guy that like drank and ate a lot. And he was like, so he goes, okay, burrito suiza, and he's like, yeah, extra cheese. And the guy goes, extra cheese. And he said the waiter was leaving, and Ohlmeyer grabbed the waiter's arms and pulled him back and said, you can't put enough cheese on it.
Oh my God. Class act.
Yeah.
So then
I don't know why I love that story, but I do.
So I have a talk with Lorne, which is very sweet, because he wanted to keep me. And he tells me I'm going to be okay. Dave, you're on the radar. You'll do all right. You have talent. And then I remember he kind of advises me that I shouldn't be on a sitcom. Bill Murray didn't do a sitcom. So now he's giving me career advice.
Yeah.
I'm the guy you just fired. You're giving me career advice, and you haven't talked to me all year. like advice for your show would have been nice. Anyway, then here's what he did, if you remember this. Because Lorne was the executive producer of Conan's show.
Yeah.
So in an effort to keep me in the family, he said, we'll just make you a regular sketch member on Conan, of which that position doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that was his olive branch. And I remember thinking, I guess, plus my buddies are there. And we were at someone's birthday party, somewhere at South Manhattan. And I remember Conan and he took me aside and said to the bar, he goes, look, Koechner, I love you. I'd love to have you on, but I mean, the real thing is we just don't have the money.
Yeah.
And he goes, plus, he said, that's not how our show works. We don't have a cast members.
Yeah. And for the most part, a lot of bits that we just did in-house, they were just so, a little ancillary. There was, you know what I mean? Things took off, but it would have just been weird. I don't think it would have been good for you in that respect, Yeah.
It would not have worked.
But funny. Did you know that Lorne had this is how funny it works. Lorne was the EP of Conan show, had an office. They made a big office for him, whatever. That office hung around for about 6 months, I guess. I think something like that. Never stepped foot in it. Then finally it's like, hey, can we use that office for something else? And and then
you gotta tell what was in the office.
Oh, I don't know, because I came about a year after. Remember, so I don't know this.
I was told 2 specific things had to be in there. All right.
What?
A bucket of champagne and a bowl of popcorn.
Oh, that's right. I did hear that.
And
do you remember he loves popcorn?
The legend was he never goes in there. It never gets touched, but it must be put in there every night.
Oh, I didn't
in
know
case.
that.
Yeah. Do you remember that? In case Lorne shows up.
Yeah.
It had to be there.
Pretty good.
It's so ridiculous.
Pretty good stuff. You want to hear my Sandy Wernick, Lorne Michaels, Vince McMahon meeting?
Yes.
It's pretty good. So Lorne started saying like, okay, so we want, the Rock's going to be on, and he was huge and blowing up. And I remember like saying, it's going to be huge, blah, blah, blah. And Lorne meets with me. He goes, I want some of the other guys to be on so big, maybe they could get hit with a chair and, do some of the things like this. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, there's kind of a problem with that because they take that shit seriously. And this melding of 2 worlds like that, it's not funny. I don't know. And then so, I talked to Vince and they said like, yeah, maybe, the big show is going to come down and we'll do something in the audience. So my whole thing with Vince was like, yeah, he wants to do all this stuff. We got to figure out something like different because that ain't going to fly. So he's like, yeah. Oh, Michaels, he's one of those chicken shit producers, huh? So fucking Vince McMahon immediately has a thing against, Lorne. So we go to meet in Lorne's office, and it was Sandy Wernick, huge, powerful agent, Vince and Lorne and me. And we're sitting there, and I remember it was St. Patrick's Day, right? And there was these cloverleaf stickers on for some reason, And Lorne's eating, right? And I was so naive at the time, realizing later that Vince was right. So Lorne has his, the food brought, it's on a proper plate and everything, and he's like, "Oh yes, we should." And then so fucking Vince just purposely always interrupting Lorne, waiting, grinning, like just waiting for Lorne of his sentence. I think, if some of the other fellas should, and then like Vince would be like, you got to eat now.
That's amazing.
And fucking Lawrence was like this. Lorne. And then he's like, well, and then he changes his tact. And it was like amazing. It was like it was like a lion and like some kind of insect, 2 powerful predators totally differently, the way they're interacting. Like this didn't make sense, but it was great. So then Lorne's talking, I think we should this and that and other. And Vince just takes a cloverleaf sticker and puts it on the end of his nose and then goes like, and starts like going up to Lorne, and Lorne's like, just kind of stops talking and just continues to eat. And then I'm like, well, maybe if we could incorporate, I was thinking about the opening sketch, if we could incorporate the other guys, but, peel off from the story. And then to my horror, it's like, oh, fuck, they're listening to me. Like, fuck, but so that's, I wrote the opening sketch was like, it would be good if we could give the line Live to New York from Saturday night to Vince. He'd be perfect at it, kind of appease him. And then we had this thing where like, oh, the wrestlers were going to beat The Rock's ass, but since this is good for wrestling, we'll keep him out of it and we'll beat this guy's ass instead and just have a little rub. So I wrote the open. It was pretty like successful and very good, and so it worked out. But that was pretty fucking.
So how many wrestlers did you bring?
It was Big Show, Triple H. I think that was it. Yeah. And the Big Show, and Vince had a little scene where he said like, now I want you guys messing around with him. All right. This is big for the company. And then the Big Show's so big and he's like, what do you got behind your back? And he had a folding chair because he could just hide it behind his back. That's how big he is. And he's like, I told you, don't do that. And then they interrupt The Rock's monologue. And then I forget who the writer was, but it was like, so we're not going to beat your ass tonight, because it's your night. So instead, I'll beat this guy's ass, and they drag the guy out. So it all worked good.
A cast member?
It was a writer. I forget his name.
Okay.
Yeah, but so
that's perfect.
It all worked good.
I love that Vince took all the power. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Well, here's the other weird thing. In Lorne's mind, everyone's disposable. Like, you're not going to bring on 3 wrestlers and let there be any threat that sketch is going to get cut.
Right.
Because sketches get cut all the time.
Right.
Like, now you got this other layer, right? Because if it didn't work at dress, they would have come up with something else.
Yeah. And it was a monologue thing, so it wasn't right. Sketch really, but
I know. So, but I mean, Vince wouldn't let that happen. That was so funny. I remember, so on my way home from Pittsburgh, they flew me out to Cincinnati. The company did, going back to the wrestling thing. And then I expected to have my ticket back from Pittsburgh, and there wasn't one.
Really?
And I remember the Big Show was in line ahead of me, and he was so nice and generous. Like, oh, hey, man. And then I had to buy my ticket, thinking, of course the company is going to reimburse me, And then the next week you told me the boycott was over.
Right.
Coca-Cola came back on.
Well, what it was Vince was pissed. And he was like, the Parent Television Council got all these advertisers to leave. And he was pissed because WCW was doing the same salacious shit, and Pepsi's on board with them, or Coke's on board with them because it's in Atlanta. And he said, I'm going to have a meeting with whoever, like these TV people and these advertisers, because we're going to sort this out. And he goes, but that's when he's like, I'm going to war with L. Brent Bozell. And he goes, for the first time in television history, a TV show is going to go to war against its own advertisers. Because he started to say, and it was a paradigm shift. We started to get these video game companies and these kind of advertisers that didn't give a shit. That old guard was like, you need these advertisers. You must be in line to this fucking TV mentality and this morality, where now it's like, fuck, I'll get the video game people. They're brimming with money, and we'll fucking go rogue. And I was so excited, like, yeah, this is great. We're going to go rogue. Koechner's going to be L. Brent Bozo. Oh, amazing. Then he came back that one week, and he's like, well, it wasn't a very good meeting, suffice it to say, even to the point of me throwing coffee on some executive. Apparently that's what he said, which I would have loved to have been like some advertiser, or I don't know even, the nature of it. I'd love to find out more. I should, where someone going like, you can't do this. Oh yeah, coffee. But he came and he said, at a production meeting, he goes, I sit before you a beaten man. He even made a bit out of this, which was fucking incredible. I sit before you a beaten man. We will now be PG-13 for the foreseeable future. Wow. We will, my tail's between my legs. But so he got read the riot act somehow.
So they didn't back off.
Well, he did. So they did. So
what's interesting is, so you were on 2 shows, it seemed like, or maybe 3.
Yes.
And then the next 2. Okay, so it was just those 2. And then the next week, there's just another guy with the same worldwide filth sign. So the story kind of kept going. But do you remember? So all you remember, Dave, is that Tommy told you the boycott's over, and then that.
Yes, that's my memory of it.
Yeah, and I don't even talk about shenanigans and chicanery. I don't even remember that guy, where that came from. some side thing because you'd be so busy doing other shit. So I don't even fucking remember that. So they wanted to like, well, let's keep it going. It's a good storyline, but we won't be so L. Brent Bozell or I don't know. Or what were you paid? Do you remember? If I don't,
$3,000.
Right. So that's
total
handsome for
$1,500 an appearance.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Right. I rode on Vince's plane. That's worth a lot. And I remember.
Did you get reimbursed for your ticket?
No.
What?
No.
Oh, that's fucking rude. I wish I would have known. I mean, like, dear
Am I going
Lord.
to tell Vince McMahon you owe me money?
Well,
so here's the other part. Now, I'm no longer married. And that person was difficult immediately and all the time. I remember her saying, "You're not doing that every week. You're not going to leave me here with this baby." Like, that's what a mother would do. In my mind, but like you, I can say dumbass. You dumbass. Can I use the F word?
Sure,
absolutely.
You fucking dumbass. If I get a TV job that could go for 8 weeks, I'm doing it. You're not going to say because you're too lazy to watch The Sun. And by the way, we already had a nanny with 1 kid. So don't give me this bullshit like I can't go do my job.
Cut a promo on her. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's in the first year of that thing that went on for 25 years. No axe to grind. Anyway, I'll stop.
Yeah,
brilliant. So it was very fascinating to me that you said when you like first walk out, I'm guessing you didn't really quite know what to expect. It sounds like you had a working knowledge of pro wrestling. You seemed like you followed. Yeah. But then you get the pennies thrown at you. Were you thrown off by it?
It was invigorating.
Yeah.
Because, they're not going to land very hard.
Yeah, it was a penny. Right. It wasn't like the Freebirds down south where someone's getting,
Yeah, it's the Northeast,
where the sheriff came into the room and said, like, we caught this guy and look, and we took his gun and he had like the guy had written Freebirds on the bullets. People have been stabbed. So
I just remember it being very intense, but clearly it's working.
Yeah.
Because the whole place is booing me.
Yeah,
and whipping ice and pennies. Yeah, so it was kind of like, oh wow, this is working.
The crowds were hot.
Yeah, it's exciting.
They were hot.
It was fun.
Then. And so you're really the most villainous character. The most villainous character is someone who doesn't respect wrestling, I feel, like to a wrestling fan, because it's such a repressed fan that like they're taking out all the rage of like their parents making fun of them on you, like
and then hooking into the news like this is dangerous. This is bad. Stop having fun. Stop having fun.
Wait. Tommy, I remember you already had the arc. You knew it was going to wind up. I was going to wind up in bed with the Pimp Daddy's hose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was going to be a turn. And it sucks it didn't go and the whole thing because that would have been fucking amazing. Like,
oh my God.
The compromised L. Brent. And then just that in real life, so excited for it. L. Brent Bozell, who's to this day is a very religious activist, he would have been like, how dare you? And they're like, no, this is L. Brent Bozo. It had just been this convergence of like, what the fuck is going on? Which I loved about wrestling is like, that name's hacky, but it's after a real guy. Who cares? He's in bed with prostitutes. What's, just like this Americana, like shit like that. I would have just wanted someone from France, like, that's America, God damn it. That's how we do it. What is happening? Would have been just fucking so
I'll tell you, it's one of my favorite things on my resume. Swear to God.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's great.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been very fortunate to have a very, expansive career. But
well, I told you, Dave, you were going to have an expansive career. I started it by firing you. You knew that.
You knew, Dave. I remember, but to me, I'm like, before YouTube, no one would know. Like if they didn't catch it that night.
Yeah.
But then I saw it on YouTube. And then when my boys got into wrestling, as all boys do, preteen, right? I had to slip in, I've done that show before. They're like, no, you haven't.
Yeah.
And then you find a way to show them and you get respect, So awesome.
Well, what a weird tidbit of respect.
Cool. And did you watch wrestling growing up? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead. That's what I was going to
ask. Did you watch wrestling growing up at all? Like, who were your guys?
Local shows. because I'm from a very small town in Missouri.
Tipton.
So there was a wrestling.
I remember everything about you, Dave. When I first met you, Tipton, Missouri, and I believe your dad. I don't know if he had a patent, but he invented or constructed some kind of amazing turkey coop. Am I wrong?
Yes, livestock trailers for turkeys.
Yes, and with a patent.
No, because if you change one little thing, your patent won't stick.
Wow, we'll edit that out.
Yeah, but anyway, Tipton, Missouri. Started working with my dad when I was 7. So I will say, when you're 7, you're like, aren't I supposed to have a childhood? No.
Yeah. What are you talking about? Look at those turkeys.
I'm not going to lie. It caused some resentment, but I will say, I've never drawn an unemployment check in my life.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's where salt of the earth. Well, from that Missouri Harley race, that's where he's from.
Oh, that's it, right? The
Paul
Sedalia
Bosch,
circuit,
St. Louis.
Handsome Harley race. God, he was the big one.
Yeah, he's the big one.
Then there was
all kinds of guys over there.
Yes,
Ox
yes.
Baker came in and out of there. Baron von Raschke.
Who's the black guy who was regionally famous? He was like the arch nemesis of Handsome Harley Race.
Research.
No, I don't know.
Shit. But yeah, so you'd watch that on Saturday afternoons, and the thing about it was small arena there. Sedalia, Missouri is a town of 25,000 people, right? Nice. But they're able to film it, and the other fun part was.
And how many people went to wrestling? 24,000.
Yeah, not quite.
1,000 had to stay home and watch the babies.
Yeah, it was. They had to keep the camera angle low because it wasn't a full house. But these 2 old lady twins, swear to God, had to be almost 80. Were always ringside.
Yeah.
Watching.
Love an old lady wrestling fan.
Yeah. Matching dresses.
Yep.
God, he had a headbutt. Who was the character? That was his finisher.
Sure wasn't Bobo Brazil?
Rufus R. Jones, I think, is the.
Thank you.
Rufus R. Jones.
Yes.
Why didn't you say so?
Rufus R. Jones.
Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Freight Train Jones, I guess this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had the local wrestling. So what that was,
Brilliant.
God,
so you got it.
That was
you
fun.
understood it, but I feel like improv comedy is wrestling without the fighting.
Yeah,
it's the same
and
kind of ideas.
I've seen some examples of some brilliant physical comedy acting with if you think about it in a set piece. One of my favorite things ever. And actually I dragged Matt Walsh, a friend of ours, to wrestling once, and there was a thing where Vince McMahon was injured, right? He's in a wheelchair, and he's got his 2 stooges with him, right? His 2 guys that older wrestlers, Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson, and they are so ass kissy with him, they got to help him do everything. So Vince is but he doesn't want help, but he's in his wheelchair, so he's getting up out of his wheelchair, and they're going to help him, and he's like, I don't need your help, but then he'd go to fall, and they'd have to help him, but he'd constantly be pissed at him. So they just played this set piece till they went up to the ring, and then he looked at the ring ropes, and this is Jesus, this is out of the 30s, this is 30s slapstick, I don't need your help, but we got to help the boss, because if he falls, we're fucked, but he doesn't want our help. And then he saw the ring ropes, and he's trying to negotiate him, and they're like, can we help you? Get out of here, I don't need my help. And then he's just teetering, and there's all these little things like that, and they just did it, and I'm I was looking at that that's fucking Marx Brothers or whoever the fuck, this is a fucking physical set piece. Yeah, vaudeville. Yeah. And it's intertwined. So
I remember I did meet Jerry Lawler there that week. Years later, I had a couple days work on Man on the Moon, Andy Kaufman movie.
Yeah.
And then, of course, is Jerry in it? I guess he's in it.
Yeah, Jerry is Jerry in the movie. Yeah.
And so I met him either on set or somewhere, and he remembered me from that week on the show.
How fun.
And that was a very cool connection. And then during COVID, I did some Comic-Cons. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there's tons of wrestlers that do the Comic-Cons.
Right.
And just meeting all those guys and how many of them remembered that bit.
Yeah. JBL talks highly of you, Bradshaw.
JBL, I love him, man. He's so awesome.
Yeah.
He and I immediately bonded. I was wearing a cowboy hat. So that was over.
His character is basically Champ Kind. I mean,
yeah.
Same character.
He's incredible.
I wear an open road, which is not Champ's hat, but it's one of my favorites. But I remember he had such a big smile on his face because you want to go meet whoever is there at the Comic-Cons, and it was fun to hit it off with him right away. And then we had the Tommy connection, which was really cool.
Yeah,
that was nice.
Wow,
it's interesting how wrestling is almost compartmentalized part of entertainment, right?
Yeah,
like that's wrestling over there, but how it's just become so important to American culture because you've got all these shows. Was it Glow or what was it one?
Yep.
Sure. Gorgeous Glow. Ladies of Wrestling.
Glow. And then now you've got Heels, right?
Sure. And well, even beyond that, it's 100-year plus tradition and it's intertwined with TV itself. When TV started in like the late 40s, it was almost like YouTube in the sense like we need content. This thing goes out live and we don't fucking have anything yet. And there was a wrestler, Pat O'Connor, and they would just film or Buddy Rogers. They would just film their workouts, and this was like the tail end of Gorgeous George. So wrestling was huge. And not only that mid-camera angle and then the other like floating camera is still used today. There's nothing like in those old black and white TV things like a lit up ring is still like, oh, that looks perfect. In fact, one of my favorite stories was a lot of these guys, and it may have been in St. Louis, they would everywhere, the affiliates, all the locals would have wrestling show because they could do it so cost effectively. And there was one show, I think it would have been in Missouri, there was an announcer who was the booker who ran everything. He owned the thing, and they would have it in a studio, right? And they'd just have bleachers and they'd have a ring. And he had one fucking camera guy. It was just these two. And the guy was the announcer, and he had a switcher, right? Or the camera guy had a switcher. So they had one set up camera, the mid camera, right? And then the other guy would float. The same guy would float. He's like, I set up that camera. And then that guy would float and the announcer would call it. And then the guy would just switch like his own, like, okay, I got this. And now I'll switch back to the mid. I'll go over here. I'll get this. I'll go to the announcer. And the announcer, it was a 2-man fucking operation. They were like fucking taking tickets. The fucking, they had some fucking guy with some missing teeth. Well, I'll put up the ring and then I'll take the tickets. And then
Table 7 wants more popcorn.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like, when I saw that, I was like, no, that's unbelievable. That's great. And then, they're just like, talk about efficiency and TV from the spectacles to now and everything in between. It's intertwined with, I would have to say how many hours, whether you talking about news, baseball, wrestling, through the 100-year history of TV, hundreds of thousands of hours.
Now there's been movies made about it, but I mean, look at the number. Arguably, for the past 8 years, Rock has been the biggest star in the world.
Yeah. I remember when I've tore someone and cut a promo, as I'd say in wrestling. Someone said somewhere on the line, Vince McMahon's getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and someone ancillary to me like, Vince McMahon, the Hollywood. I was like, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, yeah, but fucking Pep Boys is whoever, and Vince McMahon in the history of how many hours in TV, and you're gonna describe for every piece of shit that's out on there.
Who no one knows.
Yeah. Alf is on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
For fuck's sake, Alf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
It was good. I do remember Charlton Heston having an oil stain on him because it's in front of Pet Boys and just some weird, tourists shuffling through. Oh, Charlton Heston, because I used to live by there. Like, yeah. Remember the guy with no legs that would go around and brasso all the stars? And then someone like, hey, does he get paid? Just does it for the love of it. Excuse me, I gotta go throw up in a bush. Oh. Hollywood. Like fucking A. So anyone wants to say
but some of the best documentaries now are the wrestling documentaries. They're fascinating.
Yeah. And everyone's doing them. I'll tell you this, everyone's doing them. The technology, I remember going to like a thing, Cauliflower Alley Club, as I belong to, is like wrestling reunion thing many years ago, and like, oh, they're doing a wrestling documentary, or Beyond the Mat. But then I went like just before COVID, and since everyone's the accessibility to technology, I saw 2, how should I put them, mentally challenged slow adults that were doing their own wrestling documentaries. Yeah, not one, but two.
No.
Oh. Beyond the Mat was well done.
Yeah, Beyond the Mat was incredible. Yeah.
I really like Beyond the Mat.
That really
great repeat value.
That really kind of held into the Attitude Era, which started when I was there. That was another fuel, and ECW, which is this adult kind of edgy stuff. But Beyond the Mat was like,
it was so raw too, man.
Yeah, it did break kayfabe. Kayfabe was a thing that was like back in the day. The heels and the baby faces wouldn't even get in the same dressing room. In fact, Greg Valentine's father was in a plane crash with fucking Ric Flair, in which he became paralyzed. And as he was going to the hospital, he was like making sure, make sure the news doesn't know we were in the plane.
Well, he gave a fake name, and then he checked himself out the next day to make a match to make sure nobody knew he was on the plane. And then they did it. He couldn't even walk, but they did an injury angle, like in the aisle, walking to the match to explain why he can't wrestle and won't be able to wrestle for a year because of his bad back. Like, that's how insane they were about kayfabe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
About what? Like, for what? It's a show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess now is a good time to announce that we're producing a 10-piece documentary on El Brent Bozo. It's gonna be a 10-piece long form documentary about where the story could have went.
We'll wrap up the L. Brent Bozell by knowing that he actually had to, or his organization had to pay WWF at the time $3.5 million because they had a lawsuit. Parent Teacher Council is something to the effect of like they were saying like 10 kids have been paralyzed mimicking wrestlers and do this.
That was a big thing.
Then it came time to like, well, prove it. Like, well, so, we can't really. And so they lost in court. So that's why he's been pretty hush-hush about. And also now wrestling is a kind of a corporate darling, since, so different times.
Well, look at me. People try to get, go through wrestling to promote their movie or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the last variety shows on TV, like live variety shows. There's not that many left.
When I was there, I really noticed that shift from like wrestling. Hey, let me see those numbers. What? I just see the guys with the big cigars. How many? The top 10. Hey, JB, the top 10 cable shows. Here's the numbers. Get wrestling on the line.
And they still do 2 shows a week, right? Just WWE.
Yeah, and
but then
they do 3 actually.
Yeah.
Then how many more organizations are there?
There's AEW.
One other major one. Yeah, AEW. They do 2 shows a week, and then there's a few other smaller companies. But there's essentially wrestling on every night of the week, and on weekends there's like 4 shows going on.
Yeah, and there's Japan, which is New Japan, and that's a whole other can of worms and
ecosystem.
Yeah. I met some ACW.
Yeah, ECW.
Yeah. ECW.
I met some of them through the Comic-Con stuff, and that was.
You mean AEW probably?
Yes.
AEW.
The Doctor DMD.
Oh yes, Britt Baker.
She's the best.
Oh yeah.
She was my buddy. Right. We met and hit it off, and so we'd have lunch and dinner together.
Oh, fun! Yeah.
It's just so much fun. So, and I didn't know her whole story, and then they do these panels, right? And I remember her telling her story to the panel, and I was blown away. She's a real dentist, always wanted to be in wrestling. She goes to these Comic-Cons on the weekend, then goes and wrestles, then tends to her patients 3 days a week.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And she's the best.
Yeah. I don't know if this is true, but I think it is. Paul Bearer, if you remember him, was a trained undertaker. A trained mortician.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did hear that as well.
Yeah.
That was a great documentary.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, there's so many now. Vice has a bunch of great documentaries. They do Dark Side of the Ring, which is always good. They had a show called Wrestlers a few years ago. I don't even know if that's streaming anymore. Where they would just follow around independent wrestlers to kind of show you what life is like, which was a very unique look. Yeah,
and
it's cool.
Dark Side of the Ring, from the things that I know from watching it, I would say it is about 45% truthful and accurate.
It's you guys are flying twice a week.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they're doing local shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every night, right?
Yeah. It's relentless. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Well, that's what they say about, like, you know, someone like Ric Flair back in the day, or say like the knock on him is like, oh, he does the same moves and stuff. But like the incredible thing about him is like, yeah, the guy wrestled fucking 270 times a year. That's called also like, and Harley Racing, like, okay, we got to drive 7 hours, you know, and drink beer when we drive. Just like,
it's amazing.
It's fucking unbelievable.
It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I do stand up. And so like this year, I've been doing tons, like I'm 40 weekends, right? But those guys are doing it every night.
Yeah. And then, oh, fuck, my back's out. Well, better start eating somas. 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking unbelievable. And I'm 310 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm 41 years old. Oh, hey, come on, we got to get going. Oh, they're dead.
Yeah. In fact, yeah, the somas, he forgot to take a laxative with it. You know, that's going to bind you up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to know.
And that's what's going to cause the heart attack.
It's true.
Just like Elvis. Yeah.
True. Just like Elvis.
Just like Elvis. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, maybe that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah. I was just going to say, as a little button on the interview, first of all, Dave, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
This
thanks.
was so enlightening.
I knew it would be great, and it was this much better than I thought it would be.
I looked up L. Brent Bozell.
Yes.
L. Brent Bozell III, still alive.
Yeah.
And his son, L. Brent Bozell IV,
Yeah.
actually made headlines because he is a QAnon guy who got arrested for storming the Capitol on January 6th.
LB4.
So very in line with his father.
Nice. LB4.
So good to know. Good to know those genes passed down well. But Dave,
been
thank you so much.
Yeah, super
Hey,
pleasure.
a pleasure,
Even
man.
with the trick or treat voice, as Don Rickles would say. But yeah, it was great.
It was fantastic.
Oh, anything to plug?
Just go to the website or my Instagram page at David Koechner, Koechner. I'm going to continue to tour the rest of the year. There's a couple of movies I've done. Who knows when they're going to come out? There's one that's out right now. Now, this is going to be counter marketing for your audience. I did this movie 2 years ago and it finally came out. It's really good, called Ganymede. Here's the log line. Ready? It's a Southern Gothic queer coming of age story with a horror twist.
Yay!
It's a drama, and I play a really nasty preacher. It was so much fun.
Nice. Wow.
But that's streaming now, so you can find that one. But
That's great. I'll include all your links in the description if people want to check it out. And I just want to mention you have
I
shows
hope your
coming up,
bandwidth can take these droves of people.
up your web hosting, because you're going to get some crazy Western Heritage listeners coming to you. You have some shows coming up in Arlington,
Virginia, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Tacoma, Washington, Salt Lake City, Utah, Boca Raton,
and Cherokee, North.
New Year's Eve, Cherokee Casino in North Carolina.
Wow, that's pretty good.
There
Is
we
that in
go.
North? Now, Boca Raton, that's hit by the fucking hurricane, huh?
Oh, that might
right.
not be happening.
well, that's in December. They'll have it figured out by then.
I was just in Arlington watching the Detroit Lions destroy the Cowboys. That was fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
That was really
I'm
fun.
so happy for the Lions. Did you hear the coach had to move?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What's wrong with people?
What's wrong with people? You look out into audiences. Isn't that answered? Yeah. Yeah. And as the famous Pat Patterson used to say, as we'd look out into the great wrestling audiences, he'd go, my God, the only thing that really scare me, he's Quebecer, is that they can vote and they can breed.
All
right, Dave. Thank you so much.
Well, Dave,
Yeah,
thank
bless
you
you.
so
Thank
much
you.
again.
Yeah.
This was amazing. And
Yeah,
we'll include all those links. And
I'll be in touch. I'll send you some stupid texts.